only a couple of patches of those more light to moderate power outages. And so if you make it to midnight, there's a good chance you are going to keep power for this storm, because after midnight, it gets more and more isolated and the winds start to really calm down around our area. I do think it's going to take a while to get the power restored, just based on the tree damage that we'll see, especially in our more southern zones. And so unfortunately, that's going to take a couple of days, especially for those southern areas. We'll be taking a look at some radar estimated rainfall totals moving forward, coming up in just a few moments.
Rebecca mentioned many power outages, 1.6 all across Florida right now. Take a look at this video. Our crew shot this of Ian's eye wall coming through Northport. That was around 2:30 this afternoon, just as the storm was about to come ashore. Eric Hausman safely shot this using a GoPro. You can see the force of the winds there, Jen.
Yeah, and before the eye wall came ashore, our crew shot video of Ian's winds. And this is the problem here. The trees coming down, the trees can sustain some high winds for a short period of time, but as Jeff and Rebecca have been telling us, we're talking about hours and hours and hours of these tropical storm force, and in some cases hurricane force winds in places like Englewood. And the trees just simply can't stand up to that kind of constant, consistent pounding. Add to that, the ground has already been saturated. We get extra rain. We're going to see more trees come down, which will lead to more power outages. As you mentioned, 1.6 million customers across the state without power right now in the dark. 355,000 of them are in Polk County alone.
Yeah, just a recipe for disaster, as you mentioned, with both the water and the wind. So let's take a look at this video sent in by reporter Allison Henning, and you can see those heavy winds and rains there. Of course, you know, the waves just crashing into whatever it can because of those winds.
Yeah, and these are areas, Sarasota County, I mean, these are folks that know something about storms. They know something about storm surge. They certainly know about winds. But as Jeff has mentioned before, this is going to be a storm for the record books. Officials at the Sarasota airport say they are dealing with major damage from Hurricane Ian. We don't have the pictures just yet, but we are told the airport has sustained multiple roof leaks. We'll keep you posted on that. Try to get those images in for you as soon as possible.
3 airlines, though, have already been impacted. Sun County, American Airlines, and JetBlue all have been damaged. To what extent, though, that is something that is yet to be seen. We don't know. There is also damage to one of the hangars at the airport. And as soon as we do get more information and that video, we will bring you both on air and, of course, online at WFLA.com.
I have been following on social media a lot of different people posting about what they are seeing in Southwest Florida. News Nation reporter Brian Enton spent the day in Fort Myers. He sent in some amazing video. This is inspirational to me. It shows a dog being rescued from the marina downtown. A guy goes out to the sailboat there. You see him carrying the dog in, wading through the water, really risking his own life, bringing the exhausted dog ashore. And then you can actually see the News Nation crew helping to get them all settled. I'm told, you know, I was following Brian online. He says the guy that you saw leave the frame there, he needed help because he had to go back out and get a cat, too.
Oh, wow, a true hero.
So good to see those positive stories coming out of Fort Myers, because Fort Myers got hammered by the storm, continues to deal with the effects.
Yeah, that gave me chills. We're both dog owners. I mean, just seeing that brings tears to my eyes. It's just heart-wrenching to see how that dog was truly fighting for its life.
Yeah.
So a good Samaritan, then they're doing something great in saving that dog's life.
Well, the Hillsborough River also seeing the water being pulled away. News Channel 8's Melissa Marino joins us live from South Tampa, and these images, I mean, the last time I saw images like this was during Hurricane Irma, which had kind of a similar path, made a turn before coming into Tampa Bay, and as a result, sort of sucked the water out. The winds pushed the water out, and it's really kind of extraordinary. It's one of those things that a lot of people want to stop and look at.
Yeah, absolutely, Jen. I first have to say, you had to do the dog story right before coming to me. You know my heart cannot take it with the animals, but yes, as you mentioned, Irma in 2017 was the last we saw this, and as you can see over here, it's still like that. I mean, it has been all day, hours and hours, not only here along the Riverwalk, Bayshore Boulevard, also over at the Howard Franklin. The water has been pushed out. In fact, it's the most we've seen it all day. It seems to just keep going, and we've seen a lot of pictures, as you mentioned, on social media of folks doing that. Now, I will say, as these bands of heavy wind and rain come through, we're seeing less people out here, you know, walking on this area that looks almost like a beach. You know, normally this is up to the seawall, so really just incredible to see the power of Mother Nature, to see all the water just pushed out there. And I will say, we went on a drive a little bit ago just to check out the conditions. The wind is picking up. The good thing is, with this water being pushed out, we're not seeing the heavy flooding that we normally would. We checked out Kennedy Boulevard, we checked out Bayshore. We weren't seeing flooding, but the drive was still treacherous. And I say that because we saw power, the lights, the traffic signals, they were not working correctly. We also saw a lot of debris everywhere. We saw trees down because the ground is so saturated, they can't handle much of this wind. So even just right when we pulled out from the station, there was a tree down right away. Also driving over Davis Islands, there's just a lot of debris all over the roads. You don't want to be driving on that. And now, as you can see, the wind is picking up. It just keeps coming in these waves as these bands come through, and then the debris all over the road. We saw a lot of officers out driving. One was trying to get some help to fix the traffic signals. We were sitting at lights to the point where we were just then turning right to go through because these lights weren't changing. And now we're hearing about power outages, we're hearing about power lines, things like that. So that's what we're seeing. I know Tampa hasn't gotten nearly as bad as it was to the south, but honestly, I mean, you can see out here, it's not a good time to be out, to be driving. It was not a fun drive, I can say that much, but I'm going to send it back to you guys.
You know, Melissa, just over your shoulder in the distance, I can see those big cranes.
The tree. Oh, yes.
And I'm telling you, you know, we've done some stories. There's crane construction going out in the water near the Howard Franklin Bridge. They brought those cranes in, relocated them for safety. But some of these are just not, it's not possible to relocate them. But have you seen them? I know they will sometimes loosen them essentially so that they can swing if necessary. Have you noticed anything in the distance with those kind of wobbling around?
These ones we haven't, but it's ironic you bring that up because over in Channelside there's a big crane, and I know somebody who lives there in Channelside, and they have evacuated, but they have a surveillance camera because they're concerned that crane's going to come down on their apartment. Now over on Kennedy, closer to kind of the Howard Franklin, there's another construction site. We noticed they actually brought a crane down, so obviously you'd feel more secure about that. But then we also saw another construction site where they just had piles and piles of debris. We got video of it because it's like, if these winds pick up any more, that debris is going to become projectiles. So it's very interesting to see all these construction sites, some where they're taking the cranes down, others where they're still up, and it's scary. But as of now, those ones look in place. They don't appear to be wobbling back and forth, but we are seeing a lot of concerning things like that.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you for your live reporting out there, Melissa Marino. We appreciate it.
And now we want to go to Sarasota County. Our News Channel 8 reporter Allison Henning has been hunkering down there in a safe spot. I think you're still at a parking garage. Is that right, Allison?
Yeah, that's correct. It's really the only place where we can find shelter that, you know, is very secure, of course, with these big wind gusts coming through the area. We did move down from the 4th floor to the 1st floor of this garage to give you guys a different perspective of what we're seeing here in downtown Sarasota. When we get these big gusts, you can see it on the ground here, the water kind of pooling and pushing through. Over behind me here, you can see some debris on the ground, but it's getting a little, night's starting to fall, so it's getting a little bit dark out here, but I do see, you can see the strong wind now. I'm going to step back a little bit, but you can see how strong it is out here. But if you take a look over here, you can see we've got some trash cans down. We've got some palm fronds on the ground. One thing I find interesting, I know my power is out. My husband told me the power is out at our home, and I think a lot of folks in the Sarasota County area are in the same situation. But one thing I find interesting here downtown is we're still seeing some lights on here in the commercial buildings as well as the residential buildings, the condos and the apartment buildings. So we, of course, will continue monitoring the situation. Again, the wind is still strong out here. We'll let you know how things continue to progress. But for now, reporting live in downtown Sarasota, Allison Henning, 8 on your side.
Yeah, we hate to hear that you have lost power Your family's not alone. 287,000 people in Sarasota County right now without power.
Yeah, it's incredible. 1.6 million people across the state of Florida without power now. Some of them in Southwest Florida will be without power for a long time.
Yeah.
Those of you in the interior, in places like Wauchula, Arcadia, up into Bartow and Lake Wales, if you haven't lost power already, there is a chance that you might. WBF is the radio station that we are simulcasting on that you can tune into if you do lose your power. But in the meantime, we want to show you what it looks like from space, this giant storm we're all monitoring. Ian, incredible, really. This video was taken from the International Space Station during its flyover today. The image is really just incredible, and we keep making this comparison with Hurricane Charlie and Hurricane Ian. Really, the track is the only thing that you can really draw the comparison of, because this is a behemoth compared to the tight, fast storm that Charlie was. I rode Charlie out in Fort Meade, in fact, and my heart breaks a little bit for Fort Meade, Bartow, Frostproof, Lake Wales, areas that got just decimated in 2004 with Charlie, Francis, and Jean. Those folks, if they've lived here a long time, they know what they might be in for overnight. It's terrible to have a night falling storm as well. So
it really is.
We are with you. We will be continuing to cover this for you. So our folks and our friends in the interior counties, Hardee, DeSoto, Polk County, we got you covered.
Yes, we do. Well, Governor Ron DeSantis says he does expect the insurance claims from flood damage alone could be between $1 and $2 billion.
It's an incredible, staggering number. He also says that Hurricane Ian is going to be a record-breaking storm for the state of Florida.
I think at landfall, it's going to be behind only the Labor Day hurricane, Hurricane Andrew, and Hurricane Michael in terms of intensity. I think we're going to end up seeing that. It may end up being a Category 5, but at a minimum, it's going to be a very strong Category 4 that's going to rank as one of the top 5 hurricanes to ever hit the Florida Peninsula.
The storm passes, the federal government's going to be there to help you recover. We'll be there to help you clean up and rebuild, to help you get Florida get moving again. And we'll be there at every step of the way. That's my absolute commitment to the people of the state of Florida.
And that was President Joe Biden, of course, now reassuring Floridians that the federal government is ready to help, and of course urging those in the storm's path to obey all warnings. We're still not out of this. There's a lot of danger out there, so we know we get curious, right? We want to go out and walk around.
It's human nature. How it looks outside.
Exactly, but it's not worth it. You know, we're talking about your life here.
Yeah, and we are still in the thick of it. Much of our viewing area has yet to encounter the worst of the storm.
Right.
So stay where you are, shelter in place, as they say. The director of FEMA said today the agency has moved the personnel and the resources in place to respond immediately.
As Hurricane Ian slams Florida with all the power of a Category 4 mega storm,
the streets are flooding, and it's coming in fast and furious.
Washington is hearing the calls for help. President Biden coordinating with local leaders and Florida's governor.
I made it clear to the governor and the mayors that the federal government is ready to help in every single way possible.
The storm response will be a big test for the president, and he's directed federal agencies across the government to surge resources to the region. FEMA pre-staged millions of liters of water and meals, as well as cots, generators, and fuel. And hundreds of FEMA workers are on the ground, ready for search and rescue.
As the storm passes and we see where the needs are, we are just going to continue to move people in.
Florida's governor activated 5,000 National Guard troops, with the Pentagon saying more are on standby in neighboring states, as emergency responders and volunteers from across the country stream in with mountains of supplies, including hot meals for those in need.
We'll set up a tiny village about the size of 2 football fields when it's said and done.
A Herculean response to match the power of a hurricane expected to leave catastrophic damage.
We've already sent push teams to move debris and trees out of some of the major roadways, but everyone is still answering calls, and we are providing life-saving emergency services to the people of Polk County, so we're good to go. We were already saturated. In fact, all of the retention ponds are full. Peace River has been over capacity for several weeks, and certainly with the rain that's been in progress about 24 hours here, we expect there to be a lot of damage when this full force hurricane winds come through this county, because there is so much saturation.
It's just, as you said earlier, it's kind of the recipe for disaster. That was Sheriff Grady Judd on what his office is doing as Polk County deals with the effects of Hurricane Ian. We want to take a look at some video. No, actually, you know what? I think we want to go to Stacy DeSilva
in Lakeland.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's standing by there in Polk County. And you heard the sheriff then, Stacy, he's saying, you know, we're in place, we're ready to respond, but these are not situations we really want to deal with. The area can't take any more at this point, any more rain. The winds are bad news. How is it for you right now?
Yeah, it's just a terrible recipe. Here in downtown Lakeland, we know Fort Meade, Bartow, those areas are being hit so hard, but we are going to ride out here just for safety reasons. We have a we have sustained winds, wind gusts for sure. There are times, we're on a deserted Kentucky Ave, obviously, and the wind is just sometimes blowing down here. You'll see leaves, you'll see branches just blowing down behind.
We can tell the weather is impacting her live shot there. Stacy, we'll try to get back to you if we can. But let me kind of set the stage for you for where she is. She is right in the heart of downtown Lakeland. And Lakeland streets are set up like a grid. So, you know, it's these long column streets where the wind can just whip through there. There aren't a lot of people that live in downtown. It's not like Tampa or St. Pete. So it stands to reason there wouldn't be a lot of people around there. But there are a lot of residential areas in the lakes that are just within a quarter mile of where she is. So the conditions she's seeing there in downtown are likely the conditions people are seeing around her. But that's not the worst of it for Polk County.
No, I mean, they're going to be getting the brunt of it as the night continues. And of course, power outages is where the problem lies now, because those winds have no mercy, right? And
taking lines down, usually
trees,
it's the tree.
The limbs falling on the lines, and then, creating more problems. And that can wipe out entire, you know, swaths of neighborhoods.
And last check, 355,000 people were without power in Polk County. I've been getting texts from a lot of you, my friends and family in Polk County, saying, we're out of power. WBF is the radio station that we are simulcasting on AM and FM. So if you haven't yet lost power, you can go there and listen to us, or have it on standby so that you can still hear us streaming our coverage and you can stay up to date, particularly in the south and eastern part of Polk County, and even into Hardy and DeSoto County, because that's where, you know, Jeff and Rebecca say the strongest part of this storm, the strongest side of this storm is going to skirt those areas, and really they're going to deal with some of those hurricane force winds. Lakeland may be able to escape the worst of it, but if your power's out in the middle of the night, it's unsettling.
It's not a good situation. Let's take a look at this video of the bay from Bayshore Boulevard. This is in downtown Tampa, where the winds have pushed the water out of the bay. The winds are not pulling the water out. Think of it like a fan that's blowing on a bucket of water. A very eerie sight here, Jen.
It's wild. The water receded out of Johns Pass and Madeira Beach, too. It was blown out into the Gulf by Hurricane Ian's offshore winds. You know, the tidal changes happen, but when you get the wind assist, it happens even more quickly. I heard someone saying earlier today when Brittany Muller was interviewing him, right there you see Johns Pass, that, you know, it normally takes a couple of hours for the tidal surge to push out. But this morning, that water receded in half an hour. Really incredible.
Yeah, let's take a live look now. This is the Skyway Bridge. How scary does that look? A desolate site. Of course, it was shut down earlier today, I want to say in the morning hours, like around 10 a.m. when they shut down that bridge because of safety, of course. And you can see, right, at the side of the bridge, the waves just crashing with such force.
And they shut it down, you know, out of an abundance of caution. You don't need to be up on that in those high wind situations. So that's pretty standard operating procedure in a tropical storm or a hurricane. But you know where things are really out of control?
Yes.
In Punta Gorda, where News Channel 8's Jeff Patterson is. It definitely looks improved from the last time I saw you, Jeff. I'm happy to see you safe, but man, what a bumpy ride it has been. My heart goes out to those folks down there.
All right, guys, We're back here live. It's been a while since we've been on. I will have to tell you, we had to take some personal safety precautions, taking shelter inside of the parking garage where we are. Take a look outside now here at Punta Gorda. The wind is still coming crazily by, but it was really intense there about 45 minutes ago. So intense that we decided to take shelter inside of this parking garage where we are now. I will tell you, the water was starting to come up through the sewer covers, and it was starting to rise up even in the pilings of this parking garage, coming from underneath the ground up to the concrete level where we are now. We're on the first floor of this parking garage. The wind's still very intense, but not nearly as bad as it was about 45 minutes ago. You can tell there's debris down. There's this street sign that we've noted that is down just here in this parking garage. There's all kinds of trees that have come down. There's all random aluminum out there in the parking lot that, or in the street rather, that appears to come from gutters that have been ripped apart. We've seen a lot of different things, flying debris just come whizzing past us, which is another reason we are standing inside the shelter of this very strong concrete parking garage, because you never know what is going to come flying through the air next, especially in the dark. I can see that there is some power still on here in Punta Gorda. There are lights on in buildings. I can see a couple of street lights that are on. Not all of them are on. Some of the grid seems to be down at this time, but where we are has a generator. Of course, we have our own power supply, but much of Punta Gorda is without power right now, and I can tell you that cell service in this area has been very difficult. We've had trouble getting through just to call the station and other sources, so cell service in this area is certainly an issue right now, as a number of the power lines have come down. Some of the infrastructure has certainly been compromised by the amazing power of this storm, and now that it's going inland, it's going to be a problem for others as well, and I can attest to the power of Ian. I've never seen anything quite like it in all of the years that I've been covering hurricanes. Just, for one, the strength of the wind, and number two, how long this wind has been at an incredible rate. It's been going on now for a very long time. First, the wind was coming from our south and east, and now it's shifted and coming from our north as Ian is passing by here in Punta Gorda. So just the time that this storm has been punishing this area has been amazing, and certainly uprooting trees and causing a lot of damage just because of those long sustained winds. But we're safe for now, and I wanted to let my friends and everyone up there know that has been texting me, we're fine, we're okay. It was intense for a while, but we're back. And I'll throw it back to you guys. Yeah, I'm having communication problem right now, so I'll just toss it back.
Okay, that answers my question. Yeah. Jeff Patterson reporting live for us. Thank you, friends. Stay safe. You know, we keep talking about it, the power outages that are really the nightmare for a lot of folks. They continue to increase across the state. Duke Energy reporting more than, just Duke Energy, reporting more than 230,000 power outages across the state. And we're told a majority of them are right here in the Bay Area.
That's right, and actually I just looked it up, and more than 170,000 people in Pinellas County are without power. Another 9,000 near Spring Hill and Brooksville. And also, TECO has been having problems with its website, but they also have thousands and thousands of people without power right now. Combined in the state of Florida, 1.6 million people, and the numbers just keep on growing, and they will for the foreseeable future. Polk County, 355,000, Manatee, 235,000, Hillsborough, 673,000 people. I mean, Jen, this is just a problem that we're going to continue to see.
We did ask a Duke Energy official when crews will be back on the ground to help restore power. This is what we
So what we're looking for is both wind and flooding. So we want the wind to be below 35 miles per hour, and we obviously cannot restore power if there is flooding in the specific area that we're trying to restore. And not just street flooding, we're talking flooding that may be impacting a home or a business. And that's just because water and electricity don't mix. It would be very dangerous, obviously, to anybody who may be within the home, or could actually cause additional property damage to any home that may be flooded. So we just have to wait for the winds to subside and the flooding to recede.
Being in the dark in this situation is frightening.
Scary.
You know,
It's
it
really
really
scary.
is. So you're wondering at home, when am I going to see my electricity restored? We asked whose power will be restored first and how they make that decision.
Any sort of facility that's considered a critical care facility. Those could include hospitals or 911 call centers, law enforcement, firehouses. Those things that communities need that are critical care for our customers and the residents that live in our community.
She also emphasizes if you see a power line on the ground, stay 30 feet or more away from it because it could still be energized. You know, we were always taught here in this line of work, because we do cover storms, that you should assume a downed wire is a live wire. And so you should certainly treat it as such as well if you're outside in the days to come in the aftermath and trying to clean up. One thing I also know from having covered many storms over the years is that they will treat or respond to the area where they can bring the most people back up at one time. And I speak from experience. During Hurricane Irma, my little street in Lakeland, there were maybe a dozen of us on a street that were all connected to one line. And we were without power for 6 days because to bring us back up would only bring 12 of us up. So we kind of fell down on the priority list. But hang in there. If you lose power, they get after it very quickly.
Yes, and the governor has been reiterating that they do just that. They have so many crews, many from out of state.
26 states have offered cooperative assistance.
That are ready to go whenever it is safe to do so. That is key. That they also have to worry about their own safety. So please be patient. There is an effort in place. It's just a matter of time.
Pinellas County officials say a portion of U.S. Highway 19 is completely closed right now.
Yeah, we're told that this impacts both directions between Ulmerton Road and 110th Avenue. Officials say the closure is due to a large quantity of construction debris, and you're looking at that portion of the road that is closed right now. We're told it is closed until further notice, and of course we will keep you updated as to when that reopens.
Our meteorologists, the experts, have been tracking Hurricane Ian's every moment. Rebecca Berry is standing by right now with another update as we speak.
We're starting to see 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts in St. Pete, at the MacDill Air Force Base, and in Lakeland. So those tropical storm force wind gusts are making their way a little bit further north. And then Allison sent this video from East Sarasota from her backyard. You can see that she was probably worried about flooding because of her proximity to that body of water, but they're getting some gusty winds right now, and it doesn't look like it's too bad for them. And hopefully all the trees stay up and the power stays on. Unfortunately, they're still in for quite a bit of rain in eastern Sarasota for about the next couple of hours, but I do think the wind threat for eastern Sarasota will start to subside, and so that's the good news for those areas. And unfortunately, we still have a rocky road for Polk County, Hardy and DeSoto, and parts of eastern Manatee and Sarasota counties. That's where we are still seeing the heaviest of the storm start to push through, and it's starting to edge into Bartow next. Sebring's been on the edge of it, but not in the thick of it. Notice how the eye's really starting to degrade. That's a good sign. It's a sign of weakening. It's a sign that the system that powers this entire hurricane is starting to break down, and as a result, we'll see less and less energy with it moving forward. It is still moving at a decent pace compared to what we thought was going to happen, which means our rainfall totals won't be quite as bad, and it also means that the system will start to exit our area a little bit earlier than what we thought when we were talking about the timeline yesterday. So all of those are good things. And so here's a look at the future forecast for this storm. Continuing to weaken, but still dropping tons of rain across Polk County especially, and then making its way off to the north and to the east slowly. We start to get some of the lighter last bands of rain along our southern coastal zone after midnight tonight. We'll start to dry out from our southern points after that. We start to see the last outermost bands of rain across Wauchula and Bartow and southern Polk County by 6:30 tomorrow morning, and then we start to see some of the rain lifting out of our area completely by about 7 p.m. tomorrow night. So for northern Polk County, it's going to rain for quite a bit of tomorrow as well. And so that's one of the reasons, that's one of the hot spots that we'll see those heavier rainfall totals. The winds will be out of the north tomorrow, and so that will change the way rivers are draining. A lot of us have seen lower than normal river levels based on those offshore winds all day. Well, they switch to become more northerly, and so just based on the shape of your river and how it connects to a tributary, it may change things with that shift of the wind. And so after that, the winds will become come onshore, and all the water that's been held off in the Gulf by all of the wind will rush back in. It will not be damaging. We won't see higher than normal levels as a result, but it will be pretty dramatic once that water really starts to fill back in when the winds change. So this is the radar estimate, the forecasted rainfall totals moving forward. And so this doesn't count that 15 or 16 inches of rain that we already saw down near Northport and in southern Sarasota counties. This is from this point forward, the rainfall that we're going to see with this system. And what it looks like is there's a bullseye over southern Polk County. And so you may be away from that bullseye, but still experience flooding, especially in the days to come, because the water has to drain somewhere. And there's only a couple of different rivers that this water could drain into. And so we could see secondary flooding in our southern areas, just to the south of where we get the heaviest rainfall totals through next week. We could see elevated river levels as a result. And so the hot spot is for above 10 inches of rain, and so that's just something to keep an eye on. We will walk you through your county impacts coming up in just a few moments.
All right, thank you very much, Rebecca.
Yeah, we want to go now to Pasco County, of course, also experiencing a lot of damage and impact from Hurricane Ian. Trevor Sahaki joins us now. Where exactly are you right now, Trevor?
Richie, right outside of downtown, or I'm actually right in downtown, I should say, where they're starting to see some of the major effects from the storm. We got plywood on this business right here. This is actually, I think, only the second or third business that I've seen in downtown Newport Richey area with some plywood. We've seen a lot of sandbags at doors and such, but the real threat here that I'm feeling is this wind. It's starting to pick up. It's really starting to kind of get going a little bit more. And even though it's not much, obviously, I don't know if you can see in the dark, but there's a lot of dead palm fronds on the ground. Of course, that could be a risk if you are out and about and you don't want to get hit by one of those. So stay home, make sure that you're not out and about, because you don't want any of this kind of debris. I mean, this kind of debris is all over the road, and so if you are out driving, which we have seen actually quite a few drivers out and about on the roads, especially during the day. And as we all know, during the night, that's when things can get even more scary, even more dangerous. So if you are out driving or out about during the night, during this hurricane, I highly suggest you go back inside, because as you can see, the palm fronds are all over the road, and that can make it really dicey, especially for drivers at nighttime. And that nighttime is going to be crucial here in Pasco County. That's when it looks like we might see more of the storm effects that have really been hitting the south. That's what the people here have been all day waiting for. They've kind of been huddled in, and we've seen some people get out and view the receding river and such, but it seems like a lot of people are waiting. We were at a gas station recently, and they asked us, you know, are you all waiting like we are? And we said yes, of course, because we're not sure exactly how hard we're going to get hit here. Power outages are still a big deal here. They're working to get them out, or they're working to fix them, I should say. And as we were driving along earlier, I actually was looking at some of the businesses that still had lights on, and I saw, I believe it was a TJ Maxx. Its lights inside were flickering. So power is going to be dicey throughout the night, and that's very tricky for a lot of folks here who obviously want to stay up and stay aware. And so it's important, as I know Rebecca has mentioned plenty of times, to have your devices charged, keep our app open, have that weather radio if you can, because a lot of people are going to need that here in this area. Of course, again, if you are out and about, highly suggest you come back inside, especially if you're going to see that receding river. Please don't. You don't know what exactly is there. You don't know what exactly is under the river. There could be power lines. There could be debris. So we're starting to see, like I said, some of that wind pick up more or less. So the rain is really kind of steady at this point. It's a steady drizzle. But the worry, of course, is that this ground that has been so saturated over all these summer rains and rains over the rest of the year, that ground could start to fail, or at least give way to more and more floods. So we'll be tracking all of that, of course, here in Pasco County. Live in Newport Richey, Trevor Sahaki, 8 on your side.
Hey, Trevor, before you go real quick, you're one of the newest members of our team, and we're glad you're here. You and I were talking yesterday. This is your very first hurricane that you've ever covered, right?
That is correct. It is my first hurricane. I'm used to blizzards and tornadoes, but this is my first hurricane. Yeah, it's a tricky one, that's for sure. But I think you know, we have a great team here, and we're doing our best to stay safe.
Well, we appreciate the work you're doing. This is kind of an initiation by fire right now for you. So thank you, Trevor Sohaki. We appreciate it. We want to show you some more video out of Delray Beach.
That's right. 2 people were taken to the hospital after a possible tornado caused by Hurricane Ian damaged an apartment complex. That was Tuesday night. Rescuers assessed the area and found damage in 3 of the buildings. You see them here. You can see multiple vehicles as well damaged. 2 patients were taken to the hospital. Once again, 1 was trapped in a bathroom but not injured. Another 35 residents were evacuated, according to authorities. And this is something that I'm very familiar with growing up in Tornado Alley in Arkansas. You know, these spur just out of thin air, truly, you know, and we forget sometimes that tornadoes happen in the middle of hurricanes as well because of the power of the storm.
Yeah, and that's one of the terrifying things about a night falling storm. For the coast got it in the morning, and they're dealing with just unprecedented effects. But the interior of the state will now have essentially a middle of the night storm. You lose power, you know there's the risk of tornadoes, and that makes it very unnerving and scary. We are told, though, by our very good team of meteorologists that things will rapidly improve in the morning, and we're happy to report that. So just stay with us. We'll get you through it. We did just receive new video of storm damage and floodwaters from Naples. Take a look at this video posted on social media by the Naples Fire and Rescue Department. It's just stunning. The storm surge completely flooded the fire truck bay. Workers waded through nearly 4 feet of water to remove equipment and items from the inside of the fire trucks. Just wrap your head around that for a second. These are first responders who now have to respond to their own emergency. We're happy to report no one was injured. The city of Naples has issued an emergency citywide curfew because of these extremely hazardous conditions on the roadways. The curfew is in effect until further notice.
You know, it's really hard to wrap your head around that type of damage and seeing them struggle as well. I mean, they're trying to do their job. They're trying to be first responders, and now they're dealing with their own emergency of trying to save, as you saw in that video, as much equipment as they can.
And with these first responders, we have to remember, too, they have homes, they have families that they already had to leave, families and loved ones who are worried about their safety out in the storm, and then to deal with that firsthand. I think we're going to see
a stressful situation that much more stressful.
More and more images like that. We want to go over to Chief Meteorologist Jeff Aradelli for the latest on the hurricane. You keep saying it, sir. This is going to be one for the record books, and the images we're just beginning to see are incredible.
Yeah, and this storm is packing many punches, right? Some storms are storm surge storms. Some are wind storms, like Charlie was a wind storm. Katrina was mostly a storm surge storm. Some storms, like Harvey, mostly a rainstorm, although it was a windstorm as well. This storm has everything, everything. And right now, we're going to focus our attention on the flooding, because we've seen a tremendous amount of rain in Sarasota County, Manatee County, now moving into Hardee and DeSoto County. So it is very rare that we get a flash flood warning. We get flood warnings all the time. A flash flood warning, that is extremely rare that happens around here, because that's how heavy the rain is. And it's really coming together and concentrating all on the western side of this storm. That's why we've already had 16, 17 inches of rain in southern parts of Sarasota County. Now, obviously, the heaviest rain has moved into eastern parts of Manatee County. And right here, look at how everything is concentrated in a little tight ball. That's why a flash flood warning has been issued, because look at those rain rates that we're seeing right here on the northern side of Arcadia. In fact, let's zoom in a little bit more. So here's Arcadia. Here's 17, there's Wauchula. That's where the heaviest rain is. And by the way, conditions are deteriorating right now in Sebring. Just got a wind gust to 76 miles an hour in Sebring. And I'm looking at another one coming in right now. Bartow, 57, Lakeland, 62 miles an hour. We'll zoom out and zoom up a little bit. Gusty winds moving through Fort Meade and Frostproof, likely to about, I'd say, 70 miles an hour. And then, you know, those 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts through some of those outer bands now moving through places like Lakeland. As we head into Manatee County, you know, the worst of it is in eastern Manatee County. It gets a little better as you head west, but we've had wind gusts to 80 miles an hour along the coast in Manatee County as well. We zoom a little bit further to the north, and, you know, each one of these outer bands keeps moving across Tampa and St. Petersburg, and we have had a wind gust to 77 miles an hour in St. Petersburg. So this storm has packed quite a punch. Now, we're looking at the upper level winds here, not the surface winds. Once again, it's the western side of the storm that has the strongest winds aloft in the upper levels, not necessarily on the ground, but we still have winds, you know, at least 95 miles an hour up there. Some of that will get to the ground, and a little bit weaker on the eastern side of the storm, for sure. Right there is the extreme wind warning that's now no longer in effect for Sarasota and Manatee County, but it is in effect in Highland County, Hardy, DeSoto, and obviously right behind that box you can see it also includes Polk County as well. And this next graphic you're about to see is the rainfall. So this is why a flash flood warning has been issued, because look at these rain totals, 16 plus inches, and that's headed right towards Wauchula and also towards the northwest side of Arcadia, over a foot of rain already, and it's happened in a very short period of time. I want to show you the winds and where they're going to be going over the next couple of hours. So right now, this is where the hurricane force winds are. This is about 80 miles wide, so this is a big storm. This will shrink, but hurricane force winds will be moving across Polk County, especially the southern and southeastern half of Polk County. Lakeland, they'll be on the edge of the hurricane force winds and the gusts. Lake Wales, though, it looks like you will see some of the strongest winds in Polk County. And then the system weakens as it heads towards Orlando. And obviously the worst power outages, you know, if you haven't lost power in our inland areas yet, you have a pretty good chance, especially anywhere from Hardy, DeSoto, and southeastern Polk County. Less of a chance, more scattered power outages, Lakeland over to Tampa. And that, again, all lifts as the storm lifts as we head into tomorrow morning and things really start to improve across the area. Peak wind gusts today. 135 miles an hour in Punta Gorda, 140 miles an hour in Cape Coral, Venice Beach, 104 miles an hour right there. Storms are intensifying faster. Now, Ian tied for a top 5 strongest hurricane landfall in the United States and top 4 here in the state of Florida. We've had 6 Category 4 and 5s in the past 6 years across the United States, mostly on the Gulf Coast, and they have all rapidly intensified. That is extraordinarily rare. Rapid intensification has increased by 20 miles an hour since the 1980s. So if a storm used to rapidly intensify, in 24 hours its winds jumped, let's say, by 40 miles an hour. Now, more often than not, it's 20 miles an hour higher. The rapid intensification has gone up dramatically, and we're seeing that trend take place since the 1980s. Look at how storms are starting to get stronger faster, and when that happens, it catches people off guard. Why is that happening? Because water temperatures are warming up all across the Atlantic Ocean. Right now, a storm is twice as likely to become a major hurricane than it was 40 years ago in the Atlantic Ocean. All right, so here's the official forecast track from the National Hurricane Center. Right now, it's a Cat 3. It's forecast to weaken to a 2 and then eventually a 1, probably somewhere over the eastern part of Polk County. But of course, that means it's going to bring hurricane force winds probably almost up to Orlando, or at least hurricane force wind gusts. So things will be improving, but it's going to take several more hours, guys, for that to happen.
All right. I mean, the hits just keep coming when he gives the stats on what kind of storm we're dealing with. And for those of us who are still sort of north of the action, it is difficult to process because you're kind of looking outside going, it's wind and rain, but part of our state has been really just devastating.
Our hearts go out to all those affected in Southwest Florida. Here's something that is very scary to see, and as a reminder to everyone how dangerous downed power lines can be. This transformer or power line pop happened in Palmetto in Manatee County. It was all caught on video. Remember, after the storm, do not drive over or go near power lines in the road or anywhere else that they may fall.
And it's not just humans sheltering in place from the hurricane. Have you seen this image yet? This is a new picture from Sunken Gardens. The Sunken Gardens tweeted this, and they said all of their animals are safe with staff on site to watch them through the storm. The flamingos have been moved from their exhibit into what appears to be a bathroom with food and water bowls, and I think we can all appreciate that scene there.
Yes.
A bathroom, water, electricity.
They're taken care of.
Looks like a way to ride out the storm.
Yeah.
Well, the last time a catastrophic hurricane made a direct hit on Tampa Bay, as our team has been telling you, was in 1921. The Tarpon Springs hurricane had a storm surge of at least 11 feet. It devastated the coast and also pushed water up into Tampa Bay, leveling homes and leaving ships high and dry. Gives you some context there. that it's been more than 100 years since we've had a major hurricane like that hit this area.
Yeah, it really puts things into perspective. Our continuing coverage of Hurricane Ian does continue this evening. We'll be right back with more.
What does a Valley Fair Gold Pass get you?
A summer of fun?
More like seasons of fun. Month after month. It'll get you out for some sun. Or just an evening of fun.
Even just a few hours?
Yep, even for an afternoon snack or sip. And it's even more than all that.
It's about the free parking.
Easy, Dad. You also get unlimited visits this year.
Whoa!
Whoa.
That's a lot of a good deal.
And unlimited visits next year. Valley Fair, for the fun of it.
Mom was always very self-sufficient, but we started noticing things were off.
Alzheimer's, it was hard to hear that.
Early detection gave us time to seek information and support.
If you or your family are noticing changes,